He moves well. There were some questions about his pass blocking ability, I believe, but he's got big hands. He's got almost 12-inch hands, and he has like 33-inch arms, and he's going to be able to latch on to defenders and push him around. He's a big kid, 300 pounds, 6'3", and he's nasty. That's something I heard said about him after the Bengals drafted him. And you and I were talking about it the other night, Mike. This, to me, is a pick that is going to either he's not going to play tackle. I think he's going to be moved inside. And I really think this is a pick to cover for Russell Bodine. I think, it's at some point he'll be taking snaps, or he'll be snapping at center. And at some point this season, in game situations, he will be in there. This is a big kid who is strong and is going to push people around. Quite honestly, I think he's what they thought they were getting in Bodine. Also, if they want to keep him on the outside, that frees you up to do more with Jake Fisher. Jake Fisher's an athletic kid. I think he's recently taken some snaps in the team activities and things they've done. This is picking again to a position of strength and taking who was the best available out there at it. And Mike, me with offensive linemen. I love big offensive linemen who can move around. I think this is a great pick.
Well, and you can never have enough offensive linemen. And, now They've got some depth there. And, the weakness last year was the interior. Guard, center. Zeitler was a decent player, pretty good player. But, Bowling was questionable a lot of times. And Bodine, I thought, was the weakness of the team. Joe, what's your take on Christian Westerman?
Like Mark said, I think this was a steal. I think he's another guy that's going to come in pissed off. And he should. He should, because, it's unfortunate when you get a guy who has showed the type of player that he is and playing, in a Pac-12, playing in, a big conference. I definitely think that this guy, should have been at least a second, third round pick. But this guy chews nails, man. This dude he's a tough dude. He's a tough guy, man. And it's you need tough guys. You need tough guys because we got some tough games. And like you said, Bodine, he's I've seen them experimenting with Fisher. But I think they'll keep him inside. I think they'll keep him at guard because when you read into it, Coach Alexander likes Bodine. He likes him. We may not like him, but Coach likes him. So when Coach likes that guy, I'm going to find a guy who chews nails, and chews wood. And, I'm going to get him to, sit here right next to him and cover up, and when you talk about the center, we felt that, Mike, that was one of our weak spots, in our offense if we had one. But that center is your quarterback. He's your quarterback, and it's tough. It's very rare to get a rookie center that can come in, and especially with all the schemes and the different formations that we had with Hugh Jackson. So I don't know if we're going to have as many variations. So when you have that, that center, that guy, he calls, the lines. He calls the different way protections and all that. And I think Coach likes Bodine. I think they're going to keep that kid at guard. And
it might be something, Joe, where it's not like just coming in and playing guard your rookie season. Maybe Bodine's getting better. Maybe they see something we don't see there too.
Yeah. And coaches like their lunch. They like their kind of guys. But I think this guy, man, I'll be shocked if this guy is not in the starting lineup a game from the day one. I'll be shocked because I think I looked at him and just looked at some film, and this guy moves the pile. He He's like one of those road grader type guys, man. He has a great balance, man. He has a big old butt, and he's a hog, man. So, I love that pick. I think that was an excellent pick. And I think this guy may be the guy 10 years from now that is the highlight of this year's draft.
Yeah. All right, that brings us to the 6th-round pick, wide receiver from Ole Miss, not the one we were hoping for, but we got Cody Core. I believe this. I don't understand why the Bengals didn't get a better talent by drafting in the 3rd or 4th round another wide receiver, because it's definitely a weakness now just because of what they've lost. Cody Core, to me, I don't know what you think, Mark, but you watch the film, nothing really stands out to me.
He's got average hands, and of course, this is me saying that, but his hands are a weakness, I think. But one thing I do like about him, Mike, he's a big kid at receiver. He's tall. I mean, I think he's like 6'3" or 6'2", and he's 200 plus pounds. If they can get him to develop hands, those hands where he's going to go up and take that ball. He's got long arms. He's a tall kid. Maybe he can get in there and get some of the balls across the middle, or maybe he can get up for some of those jump balls. And quite honestly, when you got Laquan Treadwell on the other side in college, you're not going to see a lot from him. They're going away from him. But he had flashes, you can watch some of the highlights, and obviously that's his highlights, and you can like what you see, but can he do that on a consistent basis?
But Mark, my question is this: playing opposite of Treadwell gets a lot of double teams.
Yeah.
It looks to me like the numbers should be more than a little over a catch a game. Yeah,
and you know what? I agree with you on that, Mike. Nothing I can say, but I agree with you on that, because he should have been able to beat the second corner or the nickelback or whoever's covering him. To me, this is more of a developmental pick, where they see the size and they like the size, and they hope that when they get him in camp, they can teach him to be a good pro receiver.
Yeah, but I think we've already got those kind of guys, James Wright, Mario Alford.
Yeah, James Wright, Mario Alford.
So.
Yeah, but he is taller than both those guys. He's bigger than both those guys. So, but again, it comes down to catching the ball when you have the chance, and can he do that?
All right, Joe, Cody Core, Ole Miss.
I just think that he's a guy. He's a guy. He's when I look at him on paper and look at some of the highlights here, he's a guy that he doesn't look like he's going to be successful in the NFL because he's not going to he can't create separation, can't stretch the field. His route running is he's just a guy. That being said, his size, his physicality can help him out. But just looking at him, and what the kind of offers that we have, I think he's just going to be a guy. I don't, unfortunately, he may come in and prove all of us wrong. And there's a lot of guys. There's a lot of guys that that I came in with that playing with them in all-star games. And they were just guys to me. They didn't have great foot and feet work and couldn't drop. And next thing you know, Charles Haley is a Hall of Famer. I thought Charles was terrible. I did. When I played with him, he couldn't drop. We all linebackers, and he couldn't drop, couldn't move, couldn't cover. And somebody said, "Hey, he comes here, doesn't put Let us put him in the 3-point stance. And, the rest was history.
And he's got like 5 or 6 Super Bowl rings now.
Yeah. So, he's the guy if put in the right scheme, because, as crazy as it sounds, coming out with Haley and Pat Swilling, if they had gone to a team that said, okay, here, you two guys were going to be will linebackers, and we're going to make you drop. I doubt if you would have heard of them guys. But one of the smart NFL guys figured it out and said, let's put both of those guys in the 3-point stance. Haley at Super Bowls and Hall of Fame, and if you look at impact, Pat Swilling, to me, had just as a hell of a career as Haley did. He just
the Dome Patrol linebacker crew might have been the greatest linebacker crew ever assembled.
Oh, man. I was there. I witnessed it. Those guys, all four, they were. You had to scheme them every game.
You had Sam Mills, who people thought was just a guy.
Yeah, exactly. So you have that, and he looks like that kind of guy, but he could possibly be, he could possibly be a Husmanzada.
Well, I hope we're completely wrong here anyway. So.
Yeah, Husmanzada didn't wow, everybody, but he came in and, the thing with Husmanzada, you couldn't measure his heart. You couldn't measure his determination and his will to be just as good as his college teammate, Ocho Cinco, or if not better. And, this kid can, something can spark inside of him, and, he can become something that we don't expect him to, and because you're definitely going to have a lot of guys who do that, and a lot of guys that we expect to, be these, great 10-year guys are going to be, 1-2 year flops. That's just the nature of the beast.
All right, so we'll finish up with the 7th round pick. His name is Clayton from Illinois, and he's a safety. What's his last name, Mark, since you're our draft expert for the Grueling?
I'm going to go phonetically here. It's Fedjadelum.
Sure it is. All right, now this is my take. I think this guy's going to make the team. I mean, maybe not play much as a safety, but I think this guy was picked specifically for his ability to play special teams.
Exactly. I was going to say the first 2 words that come to mind when you say his name to me is special teams. He's, a hard-hitting safety. He's not going to cover you. He's going to be one of the guys that you put on the kickoff team, let him run down and hit somebody. But I agree with you. I think he's going to make the team, and I think it's going to be special teams.
Yeah.
All right.
I agree.
Joe?
I agree. I think this kid is going to make the team. This kid, I did see him play a couple times in the Big Ten, and he was active. And once again, that kid is a Hazlitt type guy. He's a football player. Buddy Beaker was a football player. This kid is not going to wow you. He's not going to jump up the gym. He's not going to burn up the track. But guess what? He's going to be around the ball. He's going to be around the ball every play. Those guys still, Aloka and Sean Williams, they're young guys. And they both are not just perennial Pro Bowl type safeties. They both have room for improvement. This guy, if he comes up and he can turn into a defensive leader, and he's vocal, and he's leading by example. If one of those guys falter, I can see him in there. I think he's a football player. They drafted a football player, man. They was a safety, but they drafted a football player. And I bet that kid was I bet at every level, he was every time you went and seen him play, he was all over the place, and he went away from whoever he played for saying, hey man, Who was that kid with the funny name? You know, that kid can play.